Is Yehoshaphat Oliver coming to you on the 19th of April, the 25th of Nisan. And yes, we are in a massive psychological warfare, under a massive psychological warfare attack. Is an attack on our minds, on our psyche. The goal is to enslave us mentally, imprison our minds, and those who lack awareness of the reality of government corruption and the way that government uses deception and secrecy to expand their power. So they have mostly succumbed to the propaganda that we're being told by the government and the media. And the fear mongering campaign has succeeded through the scary predictions, the mathematical projections, the scary image of the virus, this big ball with little spikes and sort of crowns coming out. It's like some kind of like weird alien. Through all the fake news from the hospitals where statistics are being inflated, and definitely in many cases there are crisis actors, actresses, or that some hospitals, many hospitals are empty, so that some hospitals can be overcrowded, so they are in fact a war zone. So either they're reporting that hospitals are war zones when they're not, or they're accurately reporting that some hospitals are very overcrowded, but there's a reason for that. And but this constant message on the media really affects people. They're not aware of the extent to which the media is a tool for the government to control people, to mislead people, to expand in order to expand their power. And they are therefore very susceptible to believing that if it's in the media, it can't be so untrue. The government would not lie to such an extent, or so people imagine naively. And then they act on that, and they become very dogmatic about what they think they know. Not only do they become attached to this belief as if it's, was given down at Mount Sinai, as Jewish people might say, but they silence anyone who even slightly disagrees with any government measures, or the extent of the measures. As soon as when you're talking to a COVID-19 believer and you dissent from the official story, you will be immediately attacked, and people will call for you to be blocked, to be ejected from a Facebook group you're in, or what have you, depending on the setting you're in. There will be very vehement objection to your disagreement, even if it's a very mild disagreement. So what we're talking about here is people who have been become victims of mind control. They're seriously like robots, zombies. They are not allowing their critical thinking abilities to operate at all. And this is true even if the person expressing dissent isn't actually advocating anything. They're just pointing out issues with statistics, how the statistics are being misrepresented, how they're being inflated, and so on and so forth. It's true that it does follow from this inflation and misrepresentation that the measures are unnecessary, or at least vastly excessive. But simply disagreeing and giving a cogent argument for your disagreement isn't necessarily advocating. However, it's immediately viewed that way, and you'll be accused of being a murderer and a roidif. A roidif is a harsh word in Hebrew, which means you're acting in a way that will cause death to another person. And such slurs, which shut down any rational discussion. And so we're dealing with people who have essentially adopted a new religion. It's not really a new religion, because subliminally, subconsciously, they already had this awe of government and this awe of doctors and medical power, medical expertise. And this is merely the extension of that. The government has asserted its power and its authority, and they have submitted, and the medical establishment has asserted its authority, and they have submitted. So, but now it's become an extreme attachment, a very dogmatic attachment. So you have those people on the one side, and then you have the other people, the vaccine skeptics, and in this case, the COVID-19 skeptics, COVID-19 deniers, again, not denying that there's anything going on, that necessarily that there's any virus, that the official story we're being told is completely inaccurate at best. The numbers are being grossly inflated, the books are being cooked, and so on and so forth. So what this means is we have incredible polarization in our society. We have the majority, maybe the vast majority of people who have bought the official story, who have dutifully socially distanced, who have even called on others to do so in harsh terms, and condemned anyone who disagrees. And then you have, on the other end, you have the people who are actively questioning the official narrative, like me and probably many people who are taking the time to view this video. And then you have people in the middle, and the question is just how many people are there sort of on the fence in between. I'd like to think there's a growing number of such people who came from the vaccine, the COVID-19 believers, who are now questioning more. They've noticed the inconsistencies in the official narrative, and they're wavering in their zealous support of it. And some of the simple reasons for this change of heart, I hope, is observing the fundamental criticisms of the official story. Most significantly, now that we see that the projections didn't come true at all. It didn't come close to coming true. There were these fantastic, frightening projections: 2 million in the United States, 500,000 in the UK, given by the Imperial College of London, Neil Ferguson. And none of this came true. And it didn't only not come true because of the measures that were taken, it didn't come true even in places where those measures were not taken. There was no dramatic, frightening, exponential growth with the bodies piling up and death everywhere. That didn't happen anywhere where these measures were not put in place. In particular, Sweden, it did not happen in Sweden. You want to say the number is slightly higher in Sweden than other countries? Perhaps. It's still nowhere near the projections based on which we put in place the lockdown. So this is, in a way, we're looking at not only a different social reality because of the all this whole idea of social distancing and the lockdowns and so on and so forth. That's, of course, the main sort of new social reality that we're facing. But in a way, we're facing a different social reality that's even more pervasive. And that is this conflict, this polarization between, on the one hand, the COVID-19 deniers, and on the other hand, the COVID-19 believers. And really, the only way the world can be saved from this false paradigm that will lead to all kinds of terrifying, truly terrifying government overreach and overreach of the medical system and of medical authorities to enforce vaccines and to also they're talking in a law was suggested, I believe in New York, to mandate the flu shot for adults, in addition to the fact that many jobs require a flu shot to even maintain the job or get the job. So the big pharma is looking to expand its power through recruiting government, all through this fear campaign. So we really need to reflect on how we're going to deal with this new reality of this dramatic difference in this new religion, so to speak. I say religion because their devotion to it is extremely dogmatic and zealous. And those who deny this religion, those who, the heretics, the apostates. And, I mean, before this happened, I was researching 9/11. And, I found out that it was an inside job, that it was very nefarious goals behind it. But it doesn't affect us here and now as much in a concrete way. So you would think many people who saw the extent to which I was making a big to-do about 9/11, they asked me, well, why is 9/11 so important? It happened in the past. Why do you need to go around convincing everyone about the anomalies, the serious questions on the official story of 9/11? So my answer to them was that if the government saw that they got away with 9/11 and that they successfully used it as a pretext for, launching a war in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in other places, for expanding the national security state, for expanding their restrictions of our freedoms, in particular through the Patriot Act and so on. They saw that they got away with it and they accomplished their goals. And unfortunately, the 9/11 truth movement it succeeded a lot in the sense that there are a lot of individuals who know the truth about 9/11, increasing number. But the 9/11 truth movement, unfortunately, from what I can observe, is not a functional movement. It's not organized, and it's essentially failed at its goals of bringing to justice those who did 9/11 and bringing an official recognition, an official acknowledgement of the crimes of 9/11. Maybe there'll be some dramatic positive development, but right now you don't see anymore the parades, the protests, the large halls filled with people coming to hear 9/11 truthers speak. There's one or two guys still going around doing it, but it's really nowhere near what it was 10 years ago. That it's a dead movement. So what that means is that the bad guys won for the meantime. So, but what I said is that this matters because they're going to do something much worse. And people who are aware of 9/11 will see through the lie. And people who are not will fall for the lie. And unfortunately, my words came true. So all those people who, the normies who think Muslims were responsible for 9/11 and that the attacks, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq were justified, somehow going to fight the bad guys. All those people sort of had you could say, a dormant virus within them. And now it's been activated. This excessive high regard for authority, for government authority, for the veracity of what we're told by the government and by the media. So, but now that it's become activated, that virus, so to speak, and it's very virulent, and so this is, in a way, the biggest social divide that we're now facing. The people who believe the COVID-19 religion and therefore, now form that as the basis of their worldview, in a way, of their functioning in society on a basic level, such that whatever new measures the government will come out with, they will obey because public health, because it saves lives, whatever it may be. Let's say the restrictions will be relaxed. There'll be a lifting of the lockdown, and so on. There will still be directives from the government, and these people will take that zeal that they developed, which came from the trauma-based mind control from the government and the media, and they will enforce those directives, in particular, the directive to have a vaccine, a universal mandated vaccine for adults as well, they will enforce that in the communities zealously. So, in a way, it's hard to feel much in common with people who are just so easily manipulated and have become such zombies to the government edicts. And this is a big divide. This is a big social divide between us. It, it, it may be greater than many other divides that existed before. Override those other things that, demarcated various groups. Now we're sort of coalescing into new groups. Vaccine, vaccine deniers and vaccine believers, and COVID-19 deniers and COVID-19 believers. Those are exactly the same group, but now it's becoming much more polarized. So, I don't really have any solution or any thoughts on what to do about this, but you need to acknowledge it. This is the new reality that we're in. A struggle for truth between the vaccine and the COVID-19 skeptics and deniers on the one hand, and the vaccine and the COVID-19 believers on the other. So God bless. Mashiach, the Messiah, should come, should take us out of this terrible situation. And thanks for listening.